Hello, hello, hello. I have no idea what just happened. I thought I was live. I was talking for 2 whole minutes and then I realized the thing wasn't even on. I'm here today for an early stream. I have another class in a couple of hours, so I'm trying to fit in the streams where I can get them. Been very, very busy this week. I'll be very busy next week with all the job stuff, work stuff. I'm taking those work source classes. I wish it was a real job. I'm not getting paid for any of it, but I sure am putting in a lot of work and a lot of hours. It feels like a full-time job. So I'm trying to fit in these streams wherever I can. Today's just going to be a straight-up open panel. If you want to come up, come on up and chat. Otherwise, I'm going to look at news stories, tweets, etc. I was seeing who was streaming earlier. OTW had some guy on live that was doing a walkabout. You know how much I love those. It looks like he's in an office or a store. And I was saying how Monday I'm going to be doing one because I have that in-person job event at that WorkSource place. So I'm going to go to that and stream my journey. And then on the way back, I'm going to stop and get some more fries. So look for that on Monday. And outside of that, I'm just pushing, trying to make something happen here. I'm still waiting for my McDonald's call. I had my heart all set on that fry station, and they said they would call me, and they never did. Olivia let me down. The little AI lady. Okay, cool, Joe. I only have about, less than 2 hours now. I have a thing coming up in 2 hours I got to go to. So I can give about 2 hours today. And then maybe this evening, if I have time to do one of those fireside chats, I can do one of those. But otherwise, in a way, this is good for me. It's forcing me to shift my attention away from YouTube onto finding a real life job. But at the same time, it's really cutting into my stream time. And I'm not liking that part of it. Trying to figure out how to manage. But this is going to give me practice for when I do have a job on how to manage both worlds. Hey, Kane. Oh, really? Just now? It's 6.6? Is that big? Let's see. Somebody's here. Speaking of jobs. Hey, what's up? Give us the news.
1 second, I gotta fix the audio.
Okay.
There we go. What's going on, Jeff?
Oh, not much. Just killing time between job school. What's going on with you?
Well, the house is very, very quiet.
Oh, you by
Like,
yourself?
eerily quiet. Just me and the dog here.
What are you
And
gonna
it's
do?
like, I haven't. This is like being at work at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, there's no sounds except for my computer, and I'm like, this is wild. I'm used to having a 2-year-old running around, daddy, I need this, I need that. Hey, can we do this? And a wife, hey, can you do this?
Or what?
Like just asking me a bunch of questions and whatnot. It's not a complaint at all. It's just a description.
Is she a wife jack?
What's that?
That meme that's going around.
Oh,
Actually,
like a
PFU
soy
just
jack,
did a whole
but,
video on it. Apparently, it's splitting the alt-right. There's a civil war going on behind these
no,
wife
don't worry
jack
about
memes.
me. No, bro. No, I just she flew back to California to go see some family, and because our dog has she's gotten even more sick over the past month or whatever. So I decided that I'm gonna stay home with her, and I'd send them.
Oh, so you're with the dog?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with all that streaming time?
Oh, all the time that we can stream?
Yeah, you have all that YouTube time on your hands now. This is the wife jack. Apparently this is
Nah.
causing a lot of controversy.
That's not like mine. Mine's fine. No, well, I don't know. The thing is I haven't been really doing my own shows, and I haven't really been part of the whole panel thing anymore. I decided not to pay for StreamYard. StreamYard was when I bought it last year, it said whatever price I paid, it would lock me in at that price. So I paid $200 for a year, and then it tried to charge me $400, and I said hell no.
What?
Yeah,
When it switched companies.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't honor our agreement, and then they're still trying to, because it says they're going to try to charge you for 10 days or whatever. And then they have a Cyber Week deal or something where it's 50% off. So if they would have just honored their agreement to begin with, I would still be with them. I could go around with another email, make a new account, get the $200 deal or whatever for the year. But out of principle, I said, fuck them. I'm tired of companies doing this shit to people. I'm tired of supporting companies just because it's like, hey, they have a service that we need, and so we're just gonna pay for the service. They're gonna fuck us, and we're just gonna keep paying anyways because we need the service. I'm done with that. I'll find another avenue, whether I have to like have a chat in Discord and put that through OBS, or just use the 10 free hours and have a StreamYard logo. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people used to do it through Discord. The disadvantage of that is like random people can't come on. It has to be people from Discord. But I did that. I went ahead and decided to just cave and pay the $45 that they jacked it up to. But I did look at alternative services for a while, so I know that they're out there. You just have to compromise in some of the features.
And that's the thing.
But there's options. There's
I don't
definitely options.
I don't want to compromise. I like what StreamYard offers. I enjoyed my time with it. I like being able to put my music on there that I have in my audio library, and then I like having the ability to put the clips on there so I can be funny and just play a clip at the drop of a hat. Like, I really like StreamYard. But I feel like it's a slap in the face when you've been with the company and then they tell you that you're going to get a price, don't give you the price, try to charge you double the price that you already had. And then a couple days later, they put it out half price for everybody else. It just warped.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm the same way. They didn't do that to me that bad, which is probably why I stuck with them. If they had, I probably would have switched.
Yeah, they did you dirty though, because they went from 20 to $45. And that's pretty dirty.
Yeah.
But it's not nearly as hard as going like, hey, that's $400 is a lot of fucking money to some people.
What was their
least.
like reason for not honoring the old company? Is it like we're a new company, so we don't have to honor?
Well, they
Because
never
your
gave
contract
me
wasn't with us.
They didn't give me a reason. See, they said, hey, if you have any questions, reply to this email and support will contact you. I replied. I said, hey, I thought you guys were going to honor our agreement. I paid, $200 for a year, and it said I would lock in that price because I'm one of the early subscribers or whatever. And they sent me an email back that was blank.
What?
Yeah.
Did you check it for invisible ink?
You know what? I really need to go find some of that. Find some of that. What is it? A black light, right?
Yeah. Or just run your cursor over it, see if there's something
I
in
was
white
just
font.
I was just like, whatever, dude. At the bottom of it was blank, and then it had the same message like, there was a problem with your payment. It was like my reply was underneath it, right? But their reply was empty. So it's like the original two emails were there, but their reply just wasn't. So it's just all around just, yes, it's every company is starting to get like this. Like, if you want to contact them for support, it goes to some AI shit. You want to get a job, You go through some AI shit. It's like there's no human, connection there. And see, the thing with humans is I understand that AI can't be emotionally manipulated. So like humans can, you know. If you broke down on the side of the road and you call AAA or whatever, and if you talk to them well enough, you can sign up for AAA and have your car towed on the same day, which is going to be like $200 cheaper than the tow if you talk to them the right way. Now, if you do it to the AI, it's definitely not going to let you do that. But a human understands they've been in that situation, or they know someone who's been in the bad situation. So they're like, oh, I'll skirt the rules, or I'll just make it happen. You know what I mean? We'll just make it happen. It's kind of like Sirius.
We're losing
One
that.
last thing. Sirius satellite radio, right? They want you to pay for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Every single time you cancel, like, you have to call them to cancel. It's a fucking pain in the ass. So you call them to cancel, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, they go, well, hey, we'll give it to you half price. So, like, over 7 years, I realized that these guys were going to give it to me half price every year. So I would just do that. I would just cancel it, call them up, or, call them up to cancel it. Next thing you know, they're offering it to me for half price. Or what they do is they say, well, sir, how can we keep you as a customer? And I say, give me half price.
Did that go away too?
Oh, yeah, because that went away not because of, like, I'm sure it still works. It's just I don't, have the vehicle that we had, the Sirius XM. We had a van that we traveled cross country in or whatever, and that was the one that had the Sirius in it. But once we sold that, I didn't really want to invest in buying a new Sirius radio.
I mean, you can almost get everything on streaming now.
Yeah, but the problem is that if you're going into the boonies and stuff, you lose connection. So
I
the
guess.
satellite connector,
How
hooked
often
up.
are you in the boonies?
When we drive in Mexico, there's hours and hours that there is no cell tower, and so if you don't have the XM radio or Starlink or something, then you're not getting anything.
You have to pull out your CD case.
Yeah, and the CD player in that van was broken before we bought it, and so it was that was our only way to listen to something, unless you wanted to put a boom box or something with your phone.
You might have to go back to the cassette deck or the
I
8-track.
miss those. I miss those, but those can get erased with magnets.
Yeah, I know.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Have you ever did you ever make a mixtape or anything like that with them?
Yeah, I used to make mixtapes all the time. I used to make my own remixes too.
Man, I loved it, dude. I fucking loved it. I would just put only the songs I liked, and I would give them a 3-second pause in between each song, so it was almost like it was professional and stuff. But
They had those boom boxes with the double cassette deck that made it easy
oh
to
yeah,
make mixtape wicks. I used to make CD mixes too with the recordable CDs.
that was the coolest thing about my grandmother working for Sony, is that she got all kinds of those cool things.
Oh wow.
And so we had the boom boxes and stuff like that. And then when the mini disc player came out, did you
Yeah.
ever see those?
I had
Yeah,
one. The
I had
Sony
one
was
of
my
those.
brand. That was my go-to brand.
Yeah, Sony was my brand for a
And then
long time.
Toshiba.
And then I even had those Sony came out with this phone kind of thing. It was a Wi-Fi phone, total fucking flop, but I paid for it. I tried it out because I had faith in Sony.
Yeah, they were pretty reliable. At least back
Rebecca,
in the day. I don't know if I bought a Sony product since.
yeah, me neither. Rebecca, that is a testament to the quality of past eras.
Look at us getting old.
Having a
So,
boombox in this age and still working is you could get a CD player and the CD player will die in 5 years or whatever.
Well, now they just have the little portable speaker, the Bluetooth, and you just use your phone or your device, and all you have to do is stream to a set of speakers.
Yeah, I love those. I absolutely love them. Even the big one, the big boom boxes that they have it Bluetooth as well, so you can just put on a party. When I was putting on events down in Mulegé, I'd have like a movie night, and I'd connect my computer to the boombox with Bluetooth, and it would be like we played Top Gun, and you could like hear it like roaring.
Oh yeah. Was
Sounds
this in?
amazing.
Hey, Leggy, are you here? Are you
What's up,
trolling my
Leggy?
mod?
Who?
You,
Trolling who?
my mod, one of my
Who's your mod?
mods. Who are you trolling?
I'm
Oh,
not
come
trolling
on,
any.
Leggy.
What do you? Why do I
You
have to
know
be
what your
trolling
picture
somebody to come on
is.
your panel?
Because you
What the
always
fuck?
trolling. You came on here the other day and you showed us all your avatars and exactly who you use them to troll with. So don't come up and try to gaslight.
But I'm not trolling anybody. What are you talking about?
That's the
I just
troll right
haven't. I
there.
just forgot to switch
That's
my
the
avatar.
troll.
No, I
Yeah.
just forgot to switch my avatar. Hold on. Let
It's
me
like
switch
when he
it.
starts saying, "Hey, Moose, I saw you at the store," and I'm sitting here going through I'm going through my brain, right? And
No,
I'm
no,
I'm
but seriously
picturing
though,
every
like you
single
not to
person I
dox
saw
you,
in that
because I
day.
can say things without doxing it that you should understand.
You would
Now,
hear him before you even saw him, I think.
I
well,
think I would. I think I
well,
would.
probably. But no, no. So like, obviously, I know the general area, which, the, which in Maine, the general area is like 5 towns. So, so, are you in the heart of E Town or no?
Yes, you know exactly where I am, bro.
So I said it right the other day because you
Yeah.
posted that picture on the Discord, and I'm thinking, I go, there's only three of them stores in like the Ellsworth area, and I go, from the shot you had to, I go, it has to be one of the other on one of the ends of the town. It either has to be across the bridge, past the Lobster Pound, or it has to be going up just before, just
Damn, you
past
know
the other.
exactly where it is. That's great. You have to come visit me
What's
sometime, bro.
Lobster Town?
Lobster
No, I said
Pound.
the Lobster Pound. So I
Oh,
was right.
Lobster
You
Pound.
pass the Lobster Pound. Go across the bridge and past the Lobster Pound, the
Is that where
family Lobster
you
Pound.
adopt the lobsters?
You're right on the corner, right? The intersection, right?
You adopt
The
a
fork,
lobster.
right, Moose? You're on the fork, right?
No, not on the fork.
So you're on the other end of town.
Right before the bridge. There's a light.
Maybe, but maybe not for
There's a
much
light,
longer.
and then there's a bridge after
Oh,
that.
well, I'm talking
It's
about coming
before
from
the
E
light.
Town. I'm talking about coming from E Town, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
No, you're right.
yeah. So it's the one that sits where you can go one way to one island and go the other way to the other. I got you.
Yeah.
I know where you are.
Yeah. Best prices on gas for sure.
Well,
No, it's guaranteed, bro.
is it
Guaranteed.
really?
Yeah,
What does
it's
that mean? If
guaranteed.
he finds a lower price, you're gonna match it.
I'm not matching
Even more
shit.
than the car wash, because usually
That's
the car
guaranteed.
wash is the
That's
cheapest.
that. No, we don't have a car wash. That's
No,
one
I'm saying
thing
the
I don't
car
fuck
wash
around with.
and the car wash just before you go up the hill by China Hill. That car wash right there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I know where that is.
that's usually the cheapest gas in that area. Because I always that's where I fill up every time I go to Ellsworth. I fill up at that gas station.
I think we're like 2 cents cheaper than them or whatever. Cause the boss man he tries to be the cheapest gas around, so that way you have to come in for groceries or whatever.
Oh, you're at the
You know
big
exactly where I
grocery
am,
store.
bro.
I- Well, I think I do, but at the same sense, there's like two of them now I'm confused by. Now I'm confused.
Don't even worry. You'll find it. Just think cheap gas.
Oh, you're further up. You're further up the road. You're like actually like, I got it. You're up further than the one. You're not at the fork. You're up at the damn T. The T in the road. I got you. I think. I don't know. Now this weekend. I gotta go that way. So, I will stop into them two stores just to
Oh
see it.
no, a panel
I'll be
collision.
Yeah, I'll be there Sunday.
I gotta go. I gotta go to Southwest to take my kid up to see her grandfather. So
I saw your basketball game, Leggy, that you had streamed.
yeah,
How
yeah.
did
My
she do?
phone. Oh, they won. They fucking dude. They fucking murdered him. It was like 45-23.
Oh, that's like almost double.
Yeah, my kid. She did good.
How many points is like what's how many points do you get per score in basketball?
Two, 3 and 1.
Oh,
One
okay.
for foul shots. Two for anything within the 3 point line and outside the arc is three.
Good to know.
But at that level, not a lot of them were shooting threes at that level. I mean, you got a few that do, but now last year there was a girl that played for fuck, I want to say Elm Street School. You don't know where, but she was really the only. I have to admit, probably in the whole however the fuck region that they play or whatever schools they play, that girl there was probably the best player out of them all. Like it was
Was
fucking
she
out of every
white?
school. Oh yeah, it was a white girl.
Are they
Yeah.
all white?
What are you talking about? The number one prospect for the
Why
in
are
the
we
NBA
bringing
draft
race
this
into
year
this?
is Cooper Flag.
You're gonna get
Who's a
people
white
all
dude.
Cause
fired up.
back home, all the black girls are the ones that everybody has to watch out for.
Well,
Those are the
look,
good ones.
I mean, we have one
Everybody wanted
black
the
girl
black
on our
girls on their
team.
team.
I mean, we have one black girl on our team, and she's good. She is good. So, but I mean, I don't correlate color to skill level though, by
Well,
no means.
that's probably good.
But
Zatu, you cheap
anyways, Cooper
black.
Flag, which Moose should know who Cooper Flag is. He's the number one prospect for the NBA draft this year. This kid's 17 years old. He come from Nokomis High School, which is in Newport, Maine. 100%. The number one prospect is from Newport, Maine.
Hey, did you hear our fucking our fire truck rolled down a hill and crashed? And
What?
so now
Maine is one of the most exciting places in the
well
Would
U.S.
we
you
just had
see
a
they found them two old guys, Moose, that went on that them two old guys from the veteran home that went on that little rendezvous on the Stud Mill Road?
they found them. Are they
They
alive?
them up in Bangor, they left and went up through Milford, and they went to go. They got up on the stud mill and got stuck. Because this time of year, I mean, it's a logging road. It's like the Golden Road. It's a fucking, just pretty much dirt road for fucking miles and miles and miles. And they
Holy
got stuck
shit.
up. They got stuck up there. One guy was stuck in the truck, half froze to death. The other guy was freezing, but he was walking away, trying to find help. There was some people up there because there is camps and shit up across there,
Did
and
they save them?
yeah, they did get him. They
Oh
they
my
got him
gosh,
alive.
dude.
They found him alive. Believe it or not. Usually that don't happen like that. So that Lyman Barden you see that Lyman Barden that was missing that not too long ago.
A what?
Ye- I was talking to Moose because up
I'm not
here,
sure if I did see, but
well, it was on the silver alert on the fucking lottery. You know how the lottery screen shows you them silver alerts.
yeah.
Well, he
Yeah.
was on there. That was my fucking uncle, dude. They found him inside the wall of the barn.
What?
Yeah, because he had dementia. So the
How
best guess,
thick is a wall there?
well, it's an old school barn, so it's balloon construction.
Oh,
So so what happened is he got up into the loft, right, the hay loft somehow, fucking out of his mind, and somehow what they're saying is he was trying to do something over there, and he fucking wind up falling down in between the walls.
Dude.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. See, I
man,
can
someone
say
could
that
do a
because,
whole
and I can
series
say
of
that guy's
Maine.
my uncle because even if you whatever, you're not gonna find. It'll be very hard to connect the dots to me from him. So
Dude,
that's why
I
I was
don't
like,
care, bro. I'm not trying to harm you or your
no, no,
family or
I know
anybody.
you, but I'm saying other people are like, well, why would you even
I know who you
give a
are.
family member's name out?
Oh, gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
was
I
just
know
saying
who
it
you
because
are.
I know you work at the store, and I know you see the fucking lottery screen.
Yeah,
So
dude, it's sad, man. It's sad. I'm glad that you told me that they were found because like they're still on the lottery. Like when I
are
went in
they?
today.
Yeah, WABI had a thing up first thing this morning about it. They found them late last night. It was uh Parker, I think. that found him. The one that was on Jason Parker or whatever, the one that was on Northwoods Law.
Yeah.
He was the one. He was the one that found him.
Well, they had
Oh,
two
Brandon Parker.
airplanes out trying to
Yep.
surveil.
Yeah, that's what they did. They. I don't know how he spotted him necessarily, but all I know is somebody, because they said there's camps and shit up along there, and people that live off the grid, and some woman heard them yelling, and she called the wardens because she knew, because it was all over the news that they were missing. So she called it in, and the one guy, as I said, the one guy had put his buddy into the truck, and the other guy that was capable of walking, he was fucking like a half mile up in the fucking woods on a trail, on a fucking deer trail,
God, dude, I am
trying to
so
find a
glad they
camp.
got found. That's some fucking divine intervention there.
And, you-
Zatoichi,
and
welcome to
people
the
are
Hey,
like,
Zed.
stream.
this is how
Hello.
stupid some people are. Because you read the comments down through, right, on it, and it's like, well, how did they get out? How did they escape? They're in a fucking veterans home. They're not in a fucking prison. Like, you know what I mean? And only one of the guys was in the veteran home, anyways. But I'm just like, they're
Yeah,
not hostages. You can sign them out and go for rides. Like, you
yeah,
know
no,
what I
yeah,
mean?
no shit, dude. They're
I'm
trying
just
to be
reading
like,
some of the
oh, you better
comments. It's
stay at
like,
home.
the healthcare facility should be reprimanded. No, they shouldn't. It wasn't
No,
their fault they got stuck.
it's the dipshit's fault for driving on a deer road on a fucking snowy day.
Look, they were just two old boys trying to go on one last hoorah. I mean, they
I
used to go to
know, but
city.
they
I used
went
to remember
literally
seeing.
on like one of the first storms of the year.
That is true. Wednesday was kind of shitty. Tuesday, no,
I
no.
mean,
What
they
Did
could
they
have
know
Tuesday?
ahead
fixed.
of time about the storm, or did they just get caught in it?
Wait,
The
when was
storm
that?
didn't just
It
come
was
out of
Monday.
nowhere.
Monday? Yes. Wait. What's today? Thursday. Yesterday. So Tuesday, they disappeared. Tuesday. Didn't come back Tuesday.
Well, it is cold as shit out there too. So if they ran out of gas or whatever, they were probably
Yeah,
freezing for
that's
like
that's
two
what they
days.
said. The one guy in the truck was hypothermic, and the other guy, he had hypothermic signs, but he was still able to walk and function. So that is one thing I can say about the state of Maine. If you do get lost in the woods and shit, and you have an idea of where you may or may not, where the last location was, good chances are you're going to be found, because we do have a pretty good warden service and a search and rescue team. So I will say that even if they find him dead, they usually do find him eventually.
Well, it don't matter
So,
if they're dead if they find them or not.
Yeah, Maine scares me all of a sudden. I'd be
dude,
worried
I
about
I
myself.
remember my ex, her uncle disappeared, and we
S-
he was drunk, had a Jeep Wrangler, thought that Jeep Wrangler, old man, he's thinking them Jeeps could go anywheres, which I mean they kind of can really if you got them set up right. Anyways, he got drunk, got going down this old skidder trail. Come to the end of it, this big water hole. He tried to go through it, got stuck in the middle of it. Search, 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 search. Well, me and his granddaughter and her granddaughter's boyfriend, we were all walking. We found that skidder trail and we seen the tracks, but then we convinced ourselves that nobody in their right mind would have went down that skidder trail on a Jeep. We're like, that's a side, because side by sides were just coming out. We're like, that's a side by side track there, you know. Sure enough, my cousin, he went up there to go look for his boss to clear cut this land. There he was, laying right there in the fucking face down in the water hole. It's like, man, it had we only kept walking that trail and not talked ourselves out of it.
How did he got thrown out of the Jeep? How did he end up face down?
Probably had a heart attack. I mean, he was a
Oh.
short, overweight fella, anyways. That was old, and he was drunk with heart problems. So, uh, yeah.
Why do they
I mean,
take those kind of risks?
like he showed up to our house one night, drunker than drunk. Like I watched him before he showed up to our house. I watched him drive across the river. Like he drove from one side of the river to the other side in his Jeep. Right. Luckily, he went. it wasn't no, we hadn't had rain and it wasn't up yet. But and it was down low. He drove straight across the fucking river. Now I was thinking, now had this been the thick of the spring, this motherfucker would have drowned. That Jeep would have floated and he would have been fucked. But drove right
Wow.
across from the
I
fishing
thought
game, right
Louisiana was
across,
bad.
up over the bank, right into our driveway. And I was just like, huh, well then. Because I see it, and I told my girlfriend, I go, hey, I go, check this out. I go, some dumb motherfucker's trying to come across the river. And then all of a sudden, I take the binoculars out and I look. I go, holy fuck. I go, it's Charlie. She
Holy
goes,
fuck,
no.
it's Charlie.
I go, yes. I go, fucking Charlie's coming across the fucking river in his Jeep. I'm just like, what the fuck?
All right, folks, you've got a couple stories from all of us. It's
That would be
let's
$39.99,
Are you
please.
doing your thing here?
what? No, I wasn't chilling for you.
Oh,
I
okay.
was trying to make it so we get into a more conversationalist environment instead of
Well,
a
I was gonna.
storytelling environment,
Yeah,
and
I
then we
need
can
to
hop
have
back
devote
into
a whole
storytelling.
episode to just Maine stories. What's
I
going
mean,
on
we
in
got
Maine
tons of
this week?
stories.
When
If you want a
my
story
parents
about
brought
getting
me
stuck in the snow, I got one that's scary as shit. But go ahead.
my parents brought me to Maine one time when I was like, I don't know, 12 or something. And I remember it was like a stormy night, kind of, and we were right near the ocean, and the waves were smashing against the rocks. And I mean, it looked like something out of a freaking movie, you know? It was so bad, like the sea. And that's my
Oh, dude.
impression of Maine. You know, that's all I remember of it is just the wild
Well, here, I'll
water.
show you. I gotta go outside for a second anyway, so I'll show you something. Well,
My
as best
friends
I
used to
can.
go there. They said there's a shitload of bars in Portland, and they would just go bar hopping from one to the
Oh, yeah,
other.
Portland has a good bar scene. Like,
Yeah,
so
I heard.
listen. So me and my wife during COVID, just after COVID or whatever, we went to Boston, right?
Are you
2021.
trolling me,
Yeah, it was
Leggy?
2021. We went to Boston,
It's
right?
always
Took
trolling.
our dog, thinking that you could eat outside someplace with my dog. Every place. Nope, nope, nope. I said, fuck this. So we took the train, went back to Portland, right? Stayed in Portland. Dude, every place in Portland that has an outdoor place to eat, you could have your dog with you. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
But
liberals love their dogs.
oh, shit.
Okay, there we go.
All
Okay, I want to
right.
hear Moose's
Welcome to the.
stuck in the snow story, and then Joe has to come up with a story to tell
I
too.
just
I have
wanted
a
to
story to
welcome
tell.
Joe to the
I have a
That's
stream.
story.
all ocean
Mr.
out back
Joe,
there.
welcome,
You're gonna
welcome.
love my
Thank you,
story,
thank
Jeff.
you for
You're gonna
coming
love it.
I
today.
can't
We're
wait
gonna
for
tell
it. This is
one more story from Moose, and then we'll move on. Here we go, folks. All right, so it was a nice, beautiful day, right? And the forecast was predicting 3 whole inches of snow, 3 whole inches of snow. And so my wife and I decided, hey, it might be a beautiful day to go out and try out our cross country skis. I've never been cross country skiing before, and so I thought that would be a cool adventure, right? So we drive from South Lake Tahoe up to Kirkwood, which is like maybe an hour, hour and a half, or whatever.
Oh, this
We
ain't a
weren't
main
driving
story.
very fast.
let him tell a
It's not a
story.
main story, but it's a snow story. And so we get there, and we get our stuff out. I have my brother-in-law with us, mind you. He was there to snowboard while we cross country ski. So we go to cross country ski. He goes snowboarding, and within an hour, the things changed. It was no longer going to be 3 inches. It was already like 6 inches, and it was climbing, and it was climbing. So we raced back to the car as fast as we could. We were only there for like an hour, and there was already like 12 inches on the ground. We tried to get back on the highway, and we get about like 3 or 4 miles down the road, and like both, it's a 1 lane highway on both sides, and they shut the highway down. And it was like 3 or 4 feet of snow that like came on top of us. There was me, my brother-in-law, my dog, my wife, in a little Subaru, and we had like a half tank of gas, and the road had like tons and tons of people, tons and tons and tons of people. People were driving up the wrong side of the road, and they were crashing into people, and it was like, it was, I
Where
mean,
was
like,
this?
it was fucking insane. It was up on the hills up in South Lake Tahoe.
Oh, in
And so,
Nevada, California.
and I remember like like I actually like had to close my eyes because there was a truck that was coming straight for our car, and they were towing out a Jeep that had gotten stuck. And so like they were within like half an inch of like slamming into like the driver's side window. And I was just like, I closed my eyes. I was like, holy fuck, I'm dead. And yeah, I mean, seriously, it was like the scariest thing I've ever felt in my life. Like, we were out there for hours and hours and hours. It was like almost all night. We were out there and we were running out of gas. And I
Oh
was
my god.
like, what are we going to do? So we turned off the car for like 30 minutes, but it was freezing outside. So that doesn't really do much. It just like drops the temperature immediately. And so then you turn on the car again and you get the heater running, and it takes the car time to warm up because you're in a snowstorm, so the car keeps fucking cooling off. So it's like, honestly, if you don't leave the car on, it's going to consume more gas. It was just, overall, I'm fucking glad to be out of there. I'm glad to be out of there. But like, so the point of the story is that you can actually go out and the forecast could be great or whatever, and freak shit happens, and you got to be prepared. You should always, if you're around snow, you should always have a shovel. You should always have like, at least a snow jacket with you, in your
Well,
trunk.
it's like on the back of
Extra
those army
gas.
jeeps. They always have the little spade on the back of the army jeep, like for digging holes and shit.
Fucking A, right. The army knows how to do it.
Things can
Anyways,
turn
that's
just like that.
just like that, like literally, boom. So,
Well,
anyways,
what I want is
Joe's
one of
got a
those
story.
fire starters. The fire stick. You strike it and it makes sparks, and then you can start a fire. I forget what they call
The
them.
flint. But they have one of them fucking ones now. It's pretty cool. It's on a spring, and it fucking dude, it's pretty tit. You push it in, and it automatically comes back with a spark. It's fucking badass.
Oh,
Like
cool.
it, like it's so much easier than fucking, but like the old magnesium and fucking striker. Because my kids got all kinds of that shit for the scouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I want something like that because you never know when you got to start a fire, to survive, and that's one of the hardest things to fucking do with nothing.
That's what I'm glad that if power goes out, I got my wood stove, so I still got a heat source.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Joe,
Yeah,
what
so
happened with you?
this morning, that campus group, the Coffee and Current Events group that I've been doing throughout the semester, we had our last meeting before the semester ends, and this one was more of a fun one. So usually the morning meetings would be some kind of focused discussion about a topic, like, we had an after-election aftermath discussion. We had one talking about the rise of extremism in the U.S., things like that. But this time they said, do some like funny holiday themed presentations. And so, and like pretend to do a brief on that. And so, and anyone can submit one, and just, you'll get a few minutes each. It won't be the whole thing. And so I actually came up with one and submitted it. So if you want, I can actually show you if I share my tab.
Yeah.
And I think I got the biggest laughs out of, only a few people did it, but it was pretty well received. Let me, okay, present. There we go. All right. So I made this slideshow, and the great thing about having X Premium is I get to use Grok, and I can have AI generated images.
So you just whipped this up on the spot?
Yeah, I did it over the last couple days, and then I sent it to the club leader so that he could pull it up, and have it on the projector. So I pretended that I was part of Trump's cabinet announcements for his newly created Department of Merry Christmas that he'll be doing, and what our strategic plan would be for 2025. So I noted here that trends have shown that the decline of Merry Christmas has weakened the country. To meet President Trump's goal to make America great again, we need to bring back our most important holiday. Right? People loved it when I went to this slide. So I, as Happy Holidays has gone up over time, so too has China's GDP grown, because By demoralizing the American populace, we become less productive. This allows
Are
China
these
to
actual charts? These are real?
Nope,
No.
AI
Oh.
generated. I said make a line chart showing growth of happy holidays in China's GDP and try to make it look like they are correlated, and it did that. So this is completely made up. So yeah, I was just saying, like, you know, it's a psyop to weaken us so that they can grow off of our economic stagnation when we are weak. And I even this part here is the generated part. When I noticed how the trends work, I kind of figured out a way to make it fit the recent presidential terms so it would look like this. So like you see this bump here under Bush where Happy Holidays increases. I said this was right after 9/11, so a lot of Americans started saying Happy Holidays more because they were afraid another 9/11 would happen if they said Merry Christmas.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
then I said, but then it started to
Save our
stabilize.
souls.
And then I said, but it rose up again here. And I said, when Barack Hussein Obama, and I turned and I looked at the class when I said Hussein Obama, they all laughed. And then I showed that it stopped rising much under Trump, but then it shut up again under Biden. And they thought that was hilarious. And then my source was dataskirmish.com. And then, so I said the solution is the Merry Christmas mandate. Federal employees may only say Merry Christmas in official functions. We will bring back the nativity scenes to lawns and town halls and other public places.
Diversity scenes.
Nativity scenes.
Yeah,
then
they have to be diverse.
And I said Santa will look like Santa again. But I did say that Feliz Navidad is approved. And I noted that it's because it's Puerto Rican Spanish. We need more Puerto Rican Spanish because that's American. We have too much Mexican Spanish. And Trump is going to fix that with Feliz Navidad.
Yeah.
And then I also said communications after Thanksgiving may not use the term holidays, so everything has to refer to Christmas, but you can add and a Happy New Year to Merry Christmas. That will be acceptable. And the order is going to be in effect until MLK Day. And then the secondary priority for 2025 is cleaning up the reindeer games. Reindeer games used to have a separate league for red noses because of their physical advantages. The epidemic of red-nosed athletes identifying as dark nose is causing them to steal titles from rightful champions. And so we would crack down on that and put an end to it. And that was it.
Right.
So
America is a Christmas nation.
They were cracking up. So it was nice.
Well,
seriously,
tough crowd here.
What does Christmas do to our economy? Is that the time of the year that just stimulates our economy the most and, you know, keeps everything going, kind of puts people in debt more?
Exactly. It reminds people why they are American. And China doesn't want us remembering why we're American, right? They want us to be divided, right? And then they can steal all of our opportunities. They can replace, you know, they're laughing at us. Okay, they're laughing at us. And they're not laughing like they have bellies with bowls full of jelly, okay? It's like it's bowls full of rice. It's disgusting. We need laughing that's like a bowl full of jelly, all right? And under Trump, we're going to bring that back.
Yeah, let's do it.
It must be jelly because the jam don't shake.
Who said that? You?
I don't know. Who knows? This is the meme age. Who knows where that came from?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really great. And I got coffee with one of my the friends I made in there. This guy who was actually we initially kind of clashed a little because he's like very pro-Palestine, and you know, that's obviously been one of the recurring topics throughout.
How did he have a flag or something, or you just knew?
No, he just like when the one thing that brought it up was when Israel did the pager attack. He said some things and I'm like what the fuck? Like I was just confused by it, and it was over the group me too, so things didn't go over well. But
all I can say is I heard that you had coffee with some dude, and then all of a sudden he was saying some things because I walked away for a second. So like I'm getting the impression that you're not looking for a woman, Joe.
Well, the group is called Coffee and Current Events, so it's not weird that
it's called what? Coffee? What?
Coffee and Current Events.
Oh, okay.
So it's a thing where you can expect the people would want to get coffee. My approach to that was like just to meet him in person and have coffee and talk more with him about it. And you know, we actually have become pretty tight since then. And we had coffee again today afterward. And he was telling me that the only person he thought had a bad reaction to it was this one girl who's also been there the whole time, and she always gave me this impression that she was like more like of a liberal or left mindset, but not in a very open way and very rigid and kind of like and I noticed after a few conversations with her that like she seemed like not very uneager for me to talk to her, and more like when you're talking to somebody and they clearly don't want to talk to you and they're waiting for you to stop and leave, more like that. And he said, yeah, she's been like that with me sometimes. She was like that with me because she couldn't understand how I didn't share the same like outrage over Trump winning and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, thinking it isn't just me. So there's a couple people like that. It is a college campus, right? But for the most part, I think that group has managed to strike a pretty good tone that I could do a presentation like that, and most people could know that it's a joke, and it's really more making fun of how Republicans can be sometimes.
Well, my friend comes over to jam like every day now, practically, and he's always talking about how he don't like Trump, and it's not so much about Trump. He's just saying like how things are going to be bad under him, and I don't know where he gets it from. It's like he must be just exposed to liberal media, and that's all he's watching or something.
Mm-hmm.
Did you win trivia last night?
What trivia?
Oh, they didn't do trivia. So Marcus and I played 3 games of pool, but I won 2 of the 3. So there was that. In fact, I got the first game I was kind of just fumbling, but I got progressively better, and we usually get at least 1 game of pool in when we go to trivia. I'm happy with how much I'm steadily getting better at pool. I'm getting some complex shots now. It's pretty fun. I forgot how fun pool could be to play, but when you really pull off a nice shot, man, is that exciting.
Yeah.
I hated pool.
That's
not because I wasn't good at it.
I hated it myself, but it was the only thing to do at the bar because they didn't have darts.
I know, everybody, you want to play pool? You want to play pool? So you pretend to play pool, but never skillfully.
Yeah, but the new hip bars, they have axe throwing.
Oh yeah, that I would do, definitely. And I was okay at darts, believe it or not. I would definitely throw some axes.
Darts are cool too, but I mean, like picking up a fucking axe and chucking it. I mean,
yeah, especially when
they have that in Seattle.
Loaded. When you're loaded.
I mean, think about it, guys. You're sitting there, you've had a hard day at work. You got some bullshit at home, or your finances, or whatever. Whatever's just like ticking that button, and you grab yourself a couple of fucking pints, and then you grab an axe and you toss it at a target and you start hitting bullseyes and shit. I mean, you're gonna feel so much better.
Yeah.
Oh, and Moose, one thing that's interesting is the dude and I, when we got coffee later, we're actually kind of talking about how, it's because we were talking about like how people on the left don't understand, like they can't put themselves in the minds of other people, and that kind of led to like things like often it's like, especially like feminist women not being able to understand men, and like why young men ended up going to Trump. And like it, for one thing, like it is much easier for me to ask some other dude to just go and get coffee with me and chill and hang out, because there's essentially no chance I'll get a negative reaction from that. But that's I am much more likely to get a negative reaction than a positive reaction if I ask a woman to get coffee, just because of a lot of those attitudes. And then we talked about how that's ironic, because a lot of young men basically have grown up to realize that if they are nice to women, women don't seem to appreciate it, and they still sort of treat all men as if they're all the ones who are abusers or manipulators, or whatever the crime is under the patriarchy or whatever.
Isn't
and we talk
it
about
crazy? It's crazy, right? I mean, to me at least, I don't understand being that like that hurt, but I guess like I try to empathize with it you know, and I try to say whatever, like it's whatever they're going through. So like I'll just not interact with these individuals if possible.
Yeah, so basically it's like I'm never going to tell someone, "Oh, you have to be comfortable with me," right? I'm not going to tell women who feel uncomfortable around men that it's their job to do it so that my life is easier, you know, so that I can, you know, just go through things more easily.
Dude,
But
this takes me back to the day after the election, right? I'm
Mhm.
sitting there at the check stand, and it was pretty slow because there was 3 or 4 groups of guys that were congregating, and they were talking and having a good time, and just, you know, the store was lively, right? The store was alive, and this lady walks in, and I get off the register because there's nobody there. And I noticed that she was like having trouble finding what she needed. So I said, "Hey, miss, could I help you?" And she just gave me like, she said something like kind of, you
Fuck
know,
off.
off kind of thing. But then she realized I worked there, and she was like, "Oh yeah, where's this?" or something like that. And I
Mhm.
told her where it was, and then she came up to my register when I walked back, and she goes, I said, "Is everything all right, miss?" And she starts like freaking out. She's like, I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. Like, men are congregating in places that they didn't congregate before, and now everybody's talking to each other, and they weren't doing this before. And I was just like, I mean, she was ballistic, dude. She was
That was
like
crazy.
at the top, like high pitched, like yelling at me kind of thing. And I was just like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, sure, you know. And I like gave
Whatever.
her fucking her stuff as fast as possible to get her the fuck out of there. But it was like she was so threatened by men that just having 10 men inside the fucking grocery store
Mhm.
made her so uncomfortable that she literally spazzed out.
Yeah, it's
I
like men
miss.
are congregating where well, yeah, of course they're congregating there because they're not married, so they're always doing their own grocery shopping. Of course, they're in the grocery stores now. um, and but yeah, it's like it's a thing where we talked about that. He, you know, and he was, you know, he was like, this guy is interesting. He's definitely a leftist, but he's gotten there really entirely his own way. He's not a talking points kind of person. Um, and he's basically recognizing like it doesn't make sense for like a lot of feminists to say things like, you know, men don't get to have a say on, you know, women's rights or women's issues, but then we live in a democracy. So if you're telling men they don't get to have a say on something,
They want to say
well,
on ours.
and I even pointed that out to him. I was just like, you know, you could make laws that specifically include men, and like, you know, it's a democracy. Women can vote on that, and it's never occurred to me to say that to think that, you know, women could not be allowed to vote on an issue in a democracy. Um, you know, that may primarily or exclusively impact men, because I mean that's just democracy. When you pass certain laws, sometimes, you know, it affects certain people, not others, and you can't really avoid that. Um,
Okay, for instance, if you take 50 years ago, who was working? Mostly men, right? And now you still got women that have the right to vote, and so their vote has as much impact as yours. So they have the right to say, you know, on your life. And I think that like when it comes to, you know, getting rid of a child, I think that it is like it should be at least the father's somewhat saying it. I mean, we're almost to the point though, technical, whatever. We're almost to the point where you could take that baby, put her in an incubator, and, you know, so that problem will probably be solved eventually. But that'll probably lead to some fucked up children.
Brave New World.
maybe. But like, you know, it doesn't even have to be abortion, right? It could be anything. And um, you know, the point I was making is that like if men actually take what feminists say seriously and say, okay, I won't have a say on it, and then they just don't vote on it, Well, then you only have the men who don't care about that voting. And how do you think they're going to vote? Are they going to vote for the Democrats? No, they're going to vote for the Republicans. They're going to do the your body, my choice thing. And so it's just stupid for people to say, well, we want you to help us all the time, but you don't actually get a say, right? Because them helping you is the say. And it's like a thing. It's an example, right? It's not just
I
women's
think
rights issue.
it's a polarizing topic that is so.
It's not just that topic, though. It's not just that topic, though.
ethanol.
This is an approach the left has toward its coalition building, or rather, coalition fracturing. In practice.
I understand that, but where I'm taking it is, I think that it is another step in destroying the nuclear family. Because the more shit that you bring between husband and wife and like, mother and son and all that shit, every single one of these topics that are polarizing end up pushing you a little farther away. Because people today, they don't have the ability to like have a conversation and just walk away and not really have like feelings over it. They can't discuss a topic and try to like play around with both sides and try to look from different angles and stuff, and they just don't seem to have that anymore. They just seem to be in their feelers, and it's like, I didn't even vote, right? But because I didn't vote, it was like I didn't vote for Kamala, so I'm not on the team. You know what I mean? I felt that.
Yeah.
You fucking traitor.
Yeah, and then like I said before, my friend was telling me how, this girl in the club was unhappy with him, and not like really very short with him, not willing to talk with him much for like a week or two after the election, because
You know what really grinds my gears?
he was not as
Hang on, Leggy, you roboting.
Not as traumatized by the results of the election. Right? So, she did not see him sharing the same emotions about it, so she was, was trying to police the way he should feel about it. And there's this ironic thing where I think the Democrats and the left half of American politics more broadly has this conceit that they're the party of empathy, right? Trump comes in, he says a lot of mean things, and they go, "Oh, we're the party of kindness and empathy." But the party of empathy is terrible at putting themselves in other people's shoes.
Well, that's the same party that's cheering this UHC guy's assassination and cheered for Trump's assassination.
And
so
check
they
this
can
out.
claim to be it, but their actions certainly don't show it.
That's the same Kathy Griffin who like.
Yep,
did
the
that,
Trump
like,
hit. Yep.
And then you got Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres actually had a fall from grace.
What did she do?
People are churning on her.
She was a mean boss.
I haven't heard about her in decades.
Yeah, they hated her guts because she was mean to her employees. She was just a piece of shit, and then they just ran her into the ground.
She was basically.
And then did you see her comedy special?
But
No.
Talk to the leftists, though. Talk to the leftists. Ask leftist women, and they used to idolize her. They used to be like, "Oh, she's such a great woman. Ellen's so powerful." Blah 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 blah. They disregard anything that they disregard how cruel she is to anyone.
But do you think some people do that with Trump?
Yeah, definitely. They definitely do. The Trump bumpers definitely do. The ones that are diehards.
I don't see Trump supporters or MAGA or the Republicans or whatever you want to call the coalition. I don't see them saying we are the party of empathy. They're not claiming that they are better at empathy than other people.
Well, yeah, that's why I look at that. What people do, not what they say.
The left is claiming
the left says all kind of things that doesn't match their actions.
Empathy does not mean that you have to agree with some of these conclusions, but you just have to be able to sort of, put yourself in their mindset and think, well, here's how they came to conclude this. I get it now, and this is like why when I see people not having identical reactions to them, right, and not just conclusions, but like or voting alignments, but emotional reactions to things, that they freak out, because it's just if that's the thing, like I can't understand how you're not worried about this unless there's something wrong with you. That's a complete failure of empathy. People who have empathy, who are actually good at empathy, don't say that.
I like that quote from Dolbez.
It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
I've never heard that before. That's perfect.
Like, and I even told my friend when we were getting coffee after, like, I get why a lot of young men have sort of embraced things like the trad wife movement and say we need to go back to that because
Yeah.
they sort of feel like clearly this isn't working, right? I can understand a lot of the things they've experienced that would lead them to do that, but I have not reached that conclusion myself. I said, I don't want to do that. I don't think a movement that seems to be about going back to telling women what to do is what I would want. And I get why they feel that way, and I'm not going to lose my cool when I see that they are predictably reacting in this way when there's, again, bad feminism. Because the issue I was telling my friend is that a lot of these young men had feminist upbringings. They grew up, they started treating women the way they were told to be, they should treat them, and they got nothing but negative feedback for it. They got accused of being sexist anyway. They were told that they were creepy or scary, right? And they have been shunned from educational and career opportunities because boomer men make more money and had better career opportunities and sexually harassed or assaulted women, right? And led to the things like the Me Too. They're paying for the crimes of someone else. And a lot of these men who did this, a few celebrities got taken down, but most of them are retired. They have millions in their 401ks. They have a nice home. They're happy. They're cozy. They're even married, and they did all this stuff. And they have a wife who's
Yeah,
happy
but
to be
how
married.
many boomers you think actually did stuff like that?
I'm not saying this is like 80% of boomers, but I'm just saying like most of this stuff, if we like listen to the stuff that was being said in Me Too, this was not Gen Z men or younger millennials doing this stuff. And yet a lot of what is done to Gen Z men and millennials in terms of, favoritism toward women is justified by pointing to things like Me Too. Well, men have been favored up to this point. These men have not. All right. And so these men basically have not much of a livelihood beyond being, a barista or a fry cook or something. And they say this is bullshit, right? And we could always talk about, well, what are things you could do better, right? There's always that side of it. And but the point is that many of them have tried to be feminists like they were raised to be, and the women clearly don't like it. The women aren't like, oh wow, finally a good man. They don't like him anyway. And then you have to wonder, is this really the kind thing to do? If people aren't happier, am I being so kind of a man by being a feminist? You might actually have to ask yourself that question. And it's a failure of feminism that young men are actually asking them about themselves, right? Feminism didn't have to be a failure.
And when you say feminism, are you talking specifically about third wave? Because that's the problematic. Like the first and second wave, I think, was not so much doing this as third
I'm
wave.
speaking very generally, so we'll just say the idea that men and women should be equal. So however you want to split that hair, I'm not going to try and define that. But the point I made is like,
because I'm losing your point if you don't split that hair, because there's distinct types of feminism, and they wouldn't all fit into the point you're trying to make.
Well,
so if you can't split the hair, you just got to lose me in this conversation.
I'll just go back to what I said before. So I can ask this guy to go get coffee with him and chat, and treat him as my equal, even though I'm older than him. He's still a college student, right? I'm his elder to some extent. I treat him as a peer, and he's happy to talk with me. He considers me a friend. That works. That is significantly harder to do with a woman. If I ask any of the females in that group, I'm much more likely to get a bad response. And I have not done that for that very reason, is I don't know how comfortable they're going to feel that way. Because I know in the past, they haven't felt comfortable that way. And in some of the discussions, I've heard some of what they've had to say about men on some topics. They're not like uniform on any of it, but I do see that like the average comfort level is much different than if I were to ask him or another dude I've gotten coffee with.
All right, I'm taking this over, Joe. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The crowd is losing you. So when I first met my wife, I moved in with my wife, and we had a roommate. Super cool roommate. She would stay up all night, and she'd bake all kinds of cool shit, right? Cool girl, kind of weird. She loved cats. When we moved, we ended up giving her the cat because she like loved the cat so much, and she just loved it. thing is, over the years, I started to get to know her a little bit on Facebook through her posts, and I just started like feeling really weird about the whole situation. Like every single post is like some kind of just down against men. And it's just like, I'm like, what do you have against men? I don't get it. Like, we had a great relationship, like, as friends, you know what I mean? She has friends that are guys, but, like, every single fucking post, I should bring it up and like,
Did you
share my
ask her?
screen,
What
but
did
I
she
won't.
say?
No, hell no, I don't bring that
Oh,
up.
that happened on Survivor last night. There was all kind of man hating.
I don't know, like, to me, there's a lot of people that get stuck on hating, and they get stuck on hating the stupidest shit. And it's like, it's hard for me to have friends these days because I'm like, I'm a pretty open person, and I try to be able to like move into any room and try to like be accepted at the very least and be able to have a conversation with people. And I'm talking real life as well. And it's like, these people that like have a hardcore stance about hating certain individuals that have never done anything to them, I'm like, I can't really associate with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, at the same that they're all up here. That's how the culture up here is. It's an ideological hatred.
But that's how the left is getting too, though. Like, even as an innocent bystander, if you're not with them, like, they try to push you.
Yeah, it's
Try to push you away.
tribalism. They gatekeep and they try to purify their tribe, and there's groups that get targeted based not on who they are, but what identity group they belong to. That's been my like the last 15 years of living up here is trying to navigate around that. It's very difficult when that's the way people think. And it's everything we were taught in our generation not to do, not to stereotype, not to judge people by their skin color, their gender, look at them as an individual, all that stuff. That's why I think this stuff is so bad, because it reduces the individual to the group identity, or it makes the group identity more salient than the individual. And so being yourself, you don't have a chance against all of this group, like this tribal group thing. It's like gang warfare.
Yeah, and I
If you're
think that's part
flying
of
the
why.
wrong colors, then you're automatically seen a certain way and treated a certain way.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why Trump ended up winning. You know, when we saw how Trump did better with black votes, right? That was, I think, almost exclusively him winning over a lot more black men, right? Because if you
Oh yeah.
if you just notice, right, especially compared to white men, black men are much more likely to say what they feel and not have a filter. And I imagine that after
Black
10
women
years of it,
too, in
yeah,
fairness.
it's true, but toughness and strength is something that I think is more culturally resonant among black men than say among white men, right? A lot of white men have been gentrified,
The
and
soils.
exactly, and they have guilt and they hate themselves, and a lot of black men,
They're like, fuck this shit.
yeah, no, basically, oh hell no, that's some
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Basically, not too different from country white men, right? But again, there's a reason why the country white men are in MAGA, and uh, so it's a lot more sort of even in urban culture, like where you talk about like black men in rural and urban environments. This cultural trait remains with them, whereas as guys white men get urban or suburban, they tend to lose that and become more feminized. And at first, when it's when you look at wokeness kind of starting with Black Lives Matter, that's where it was more in the early part of it, in like around 2014, 2015. Easier to see why they'd get on board with it. But as it it went over to like the trans stuff and hating masculinity and Me Too, I imagine a lot of them got sick of this shit, and they're like, I'm on the wrong side. They were using me to get votes, and then they go after us with these other things, and so I think this. I think what Sean mentioned there is true as well. Man, I think what I'm saying about black men is just sort of speaking to the way men are more inclined to be, and it's just there have been less cultural pressures, I think, for black men to step away from their masculinity compared to white men. I think white men are actually the sort of the unusual ones in American culture, in that they have culturally just relinquished a lot of their more masculine impulses. And so like I think that's why you see like a lot of athletes. Many of them are. I've noticed. I've seen a lot of the clips from different ethnic groups when they like win a game or score a point in a sport. They'll do the Trump YMCA dance, and they're feeling some kind of shared resonance there. And I think it was sort of a cultural vote.
I think we lost him,
Yeah, we did.
but that's all right.
R.I.P.
That's all
Jeff.
right.
But
Yeah,
anyway, that's my story.
that's great, dude. I think that you're branching out is amazing. I think you're building community, and I think that's what needs to be done. Especially when you treat a young man with respect, what it does is like it really hits hard with them, you know,
Yep. When
and
you
it
treat a
could
man
change
with
your life.
respect, especially a young man, because they don't necessarily start out with a lot of respect, right? They respond well to that. It is a really tragic thing that you can treat women with respect and it can blow up in your face.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Like it's one of those things where you question what is real. I mean, like you start to feel like, am I like in the Matrix? Does any of this make sense? Like it really, like if it goes badly, and I've had past experiences where it does go badly. Like how do I trust anything anymore? It's
But
just
I also notice it coming from men toward other men. I don't know if they're feminist or they're white knighting for women or whatever, but even on the right, I've seen women have an effect on men where they start defending the women and circling the wagons around the women against other men, or policing other men, or trying to socialize men to feminist norms. I've seen that in these circles too.
oh yeah. I mean, I think this is part of why I think it's been so effective is even among conservative men. There's this. I mean, a big part of like men on the right is they think men should be willing to step up and protect women. So they're not saying, "Oh, fuck women" necessarily. Although there are some, like in the manosphere, there are some people who have taken that line, like the MGTOW and people and stuff, or the
I'm
incels.
MGTOW.
Well, it's common sense. I
Uh,
mean, if you can't protect your fucking family, if someone comes to take them out, do some harm to them, you pick up the phone, you call 911. That shit's gonna take forever. It's already too late. The
yeah.
crime's already done. What do you've been, it's a losing fucking strategy to not be prepared to protect your family.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed, like with the immigration issue, is women are usually the sort of the emotional pressure point that is used to drive their like. Look, if you look at America and Europe, when they talk about criminal illegal immigrants, or even ones that came in legally, but just part of this this flood of immigration that's happened in the last decade or two, they often emphasize like women who are like raped by male immigrants. That is often like the framing of this is the crime problem. It's they are coming here and they are defiling our women, and that sends conservative men into a frenzy. They're like, we have to protect our women. How can we? It's a dishonor to us, right? So it's like they definitely, I think, is not like they're immune to like, oh, I don't care about women's feelings. It's just to them, it's more like it's you could say it's essentially the construct that is implied under patriarchy. It's men take charge and they make sure the women are safe.
How is that patriarchy though? Because the women themselves are benefiting from the protection they want to get too. I don't know
Because
what women need to be protected from. So
so
it's. I don't think it's just the men. I think it's a
so
mutually beneficial dynamic.
well, the part is the men take charge, right? So the men rise to the occasion. They make this. They take decisive action. They make
Only because
decisions
the women are not. If the women would be
basically.
taking care of themselves, the men wouldn't need to step up and take charge.
Well, this is what I was saying. I don't know if I was saying it here, like in your maybe your server at one point, but I don't know where I was discussing it. But basically, um, you don't have a lot of matriarchies because not a lot of things happen because women specifically stepped up to make it happen. But you have a lot of historical moments that happen because men stepped up and said, "This is some bullshit. We're going to change this."
But
And
you consider that patriarchy? Or are you just speaking figuratively? To me,
so
patriarchy is something more organized.
so if we're talking historically, right, over the long scheme of humanity, and we see that most societies have been patriarchal rather than matriarchal, it's because men temperamentally tend to be more assertive and decisive and action oriented. They're not as passive, right? They're much more likely to intervene and use force to do so. And so, it's just sort of the nature of things like that. Like you said, the men are taking charge to, let's say, in their view.
Yeah, but
uh,
women have been slipping poison and all kinds of crazy shit for thousands of years as well.
I grew up in
I
a
mean,
matriarchy, and my family is the women that were doing
yeah,
all of it.
but
They
those are
were
usually
stepping
women
up,
at the
taking. The
top.
men were very passive and just kind of ran in the background.
Yeah, those are usually women at the top. Like those were like aristocratic women who had contacts with apothecaries who could get them the poisons, which were not exactly easy to make back then. And you needed give them a bag of gold and you can get your stuff. Peasant women were not doing this, but men, whether they're peasant men or aristocrats, could grab a weapon and just start murdering people until they think the social order is enforced.
What's stopping women from doing that?
Well, nothing necessarily is stopping them. It's just temperamentally, women don't tend to do that as much. Women don't tend to get together as women and
So,
say,
I
"We're
guess
going to
if
make this
it's
happen."
temperament, is that patriarchy then? If it's
So,
just people acting out their natural temperaments, that doesn't seem like a specific form of government or
yes,
societal
yes, Jen,
organization.
yes, because every archy is going to be people acting out. So we have democracy. Why? Not just here, but in lots of places, because most people don't like being treated as inferiors, men or women. So when you develop a system where the people rule together rather than just one or a handful of people, right? Temperamentally, people feel a lot better about that. So every archy is going to be based on what people naturally do or that group of people naturally decides to do. That doesn't mean it's not patriarchy or democracy. It may change some of why we understand patriarchy to exist and
I'm just
whether
lost. Like the word patriarchy, I just get lost at in general. It's so vague and it means so many different things to
it
everybody who
does.
uses it.
It's a moving target when the left says it by design because they could always just make the accusation and then they can, when challenged on it, just use the one that suits whatever they're ready to say better. But the it's well noted that if you look at most societies historically, they were usually governed by men. Most of the whether it was a monarch or a group of elders, usually the people making those decisions were exclusively men. The people commanding armies were men. The people in the armies were men. If there were women along, it was this rare kind of exception. And you didn't have significant female leadership and really until the 20th century. And even that has been few and far between. Like America hasn't even had a female president yet, right? Women do not make up half the Senate or half the House of Representatives. Um, so
So
my point being
it, it
is
it also seems gender essentialist. Is there something specifically about women that
I'm
would be
not
different?
saying
Again, I get lost. I'm losing the individual in the group. Like what? I don't see what gender has to do with democracy, with who's in the Senate, who gets to vote. Women get to vote just like men do. Women can run for office just like men do. What's the significance of whether it's a man or a woman or not?
well, I mean the significance is whatever you make of it, right? But I'm just saying, like, if you look at
Well,
societies
that's what
and
I'm saying. That's vague. Whatever you make of it is just vague. I'm losing the point of the conversation.
well, I'm simply saying that, like, if people say that society is patriarchal, it's because they look at who's in charge, and for most of history, it is almost exclusively men. And even today, with more women participating, it still leans toward men.
But
And
that
this says
doesn't mean, just because there's more men in government doesn't mean it's patriarchal.
well, I mean, why?
Unless they're using patriarchy as just an adjective to describe a
Well, yeah.
majority of men. But that is not patriarchy to me. Patriarchy requires more than just, oh, there's more men than women in this group.
Well, I think one, it's not that there's more men than women in the group. In fact, historically, especially
I'm
lately,
talking about now, like right now in the United States. If there's more men in the Senate than women, that doesn't mean the Senate is a patriarchy.
No, but there's, roughly an equal number, slightly more women in the American population, but men dominate most of the leadership positions. So, if you look at that phenomenologically, well, there's something patriarchal going on, and you can make whatever value judgments or causal explanations you
But
want.
I don't. When you say that, I don't understand how you're using the word patriarchal in that context.
It's just it's a society that is ruled.
Anytime there's
by
more
men.
men in leadership than women, that you consider that patriarchal just because it's men.
And I think that when people
then you're using patriarchy in a way that I'm not. That's not resonating with me, I guess.
yeah, so don't
I think of it as a specific form of government that's organized around men being in charge. Not just there happens to be more men in leadership positions. That doesn't necessarily mean there's anything patriarchal about that system. Are there additional values that come with the fact that there are just more men, happen to be more men in leadership positions? Are they coordinating in some way to make policy based on exclusively male values or agenda? That would take it to the level of patriarchy to me. But just the fact that their gender happens to be male is not enough for me to call it patriarchal.
What if they're all gender
Let me
neutral?
put it this way, so I want to say, you're right that you can have a formal patriarchy, but I don't think it's crazy for some of these words to be used informally.
Because you were doing this with the Karen thing and the concept creep and making the argument for letting terms balloon, but it seems like that's what's happening with patriarchy.
But
if if patriarchy's not gonna mean this very specific thing, and it just means wherever there's more men, it kind of dilutes the meaning of the word patriarchy. Hey, Plasma.
So
good to see.
I think it's worth noting that we still use words in ways that suggest that there's, if not a formal thing, there's this unspoken norm in place as well.
See that's where I'm running to the bear, the unspoken shit. That doesn't work on me. I try to use words very precisely and specifically, and I feel like I'm having to fight to do that.
But there are many things that are part of functioning systems that are not explicit, right? There are, when people talk about constitutional norms in the U.S. system, for example, those are norms that make the Constitution work that aren't necessarily written in the Constitution. Like when Mike Pence decided he was not going to refuse to certify the results of the 2020 election as vice president, right? Nothing in the Constitution specifically said he blindly had to go along with the Electoral College, but it's the norm that you would take it that way. There's no perfectly explicit system that covers every possible version of events for what happens with a government, and you have to sort of default to certain norms. And so in Roman times, for example, you had a much more explicitly patriarchal society in which men had certain political rights over women. And the fact that you could say in a formal sense America ceased to be a patriarchy after they gave women the vote, right? If women are voting, then they're participating in the rule to some extent.
Yeah, I think
so. Then the question
too.
is, if it is there an informal sense? Because sometimes, even if something's not specifically a democracy, the approach to how it functions is often described as democratic, right? So some workplaces are described as democratic.
But that doesn't make it that thing. If it's just an informal way of speaking, that doesn't make it that thing. I think that's my whole difficulty I'm having right now.
Yeah.
So I know people are going to call all that stuff patriarchy, but that doesn't make it patriarchy.
Right. And then, but I would also point out, though, that if it works out on its own without you having to state it explicitly, that might be why it's not stated explicitly, right? The societies where things just happen, they maybe don't have to make rules saying that it must happen. So that's a thing to keep in mind as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be formal for the system to be patriarchal if it's working out that way on its own. The question we might ask is like, and then you can even wonder to what extent any system was formal or not, because written constitutions are a much more recent thing. For a long time, people were just going along with what felt good. So
I
what was
know
going
we
on?
started off talking about men, like something about
Yeah.
the relationship, modern women, and the relationship of men, like men today, younger men, and we're lost in history and patriarchy, and I have no idea where I am anymore with this conversation. I was kind of understanding the modern feminist stuff when you were talking about specific interactions you were having with women, or you took this young guy to coffee, and now we're lost in history and arguing over what this vague term patriarchy means when applied to these historical examples. So I got off track somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one reason why I didn't bring up a specific wave of feminism is because you could arguably be the case that all of them are true, right? Like, you could be somebody who is fine with women being able to vote, fine with women being able to work, and then fine with anything that happened, third wave and after. Some people have even said there's been fourth wave feminism, but whichever these things, the thing I was discussing with my friend is that women seem to think that they don't seem to recognize that when men are more than happy to accommodate these things, these different levels of feminism, that it's basically them being treated the way they want to be treated. They somehow don't recognize it when what they think is how men get treated. That when they get that, they're getting what they want, and therefore their goals have been met. Instead, they respond to it differently, and a lot of men get negative feedback. And he and I were talking about that because we both have experienced it to a point, and we're trying to contextualize it for like, why did Trump win young men? Because that was an interesting thing that he won young men.
Well, have you seen the messaging coming out of the left of the Democratic Party towards men? I've
Yeah.
even noticed it myself as an adult gay man over the last like
Well,
5 or 6 years.
let's talk about like the word patriarchy, right? It's meant to have a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a patriarchy, it must be bad. Whereas I'm just saying, if something's a patriarchy, it just means, men are the dominant,
And that's not how I
rule-makers.
use it, so that's part of my confusion.
Hey, what's it called?
If
when
there's a
everybody's
group of
equal?
people on the playground and it's like 10 guys and 9 girls, I wouldn't say, "Oh, look, that playground is patriarchal," just because there happens to be more men than women playing around on it.
Well, I
What's
mean,
it?
I think a playground would be
What?
too isolated of a thing. It's not like a whole, interconnected society, right? Whereas a Senate is making decisions for all of society.
Yeah, but do you think all of the men are making decisions in a very specific way because they're male? Like I think you'd find
No.
a diversity of decisions if you sample just the men, and I think a lot of them would overlap with the decisions that a lot of the women are making too in the Senate. So to call it patriarchy just is
That would be
very
true.
confusing
That
to
would
me.
be
It's
true
clouding the
even
point.
Jeff. That would be true even in a formal patriarchy, like where Roman men like had power over their families as a patriarch, and that was part of the legal.
What's significant about the fact that there's more men in the Senate than women in a patriarchal sense? I'm not seeing
Well, that's a strange
how
question.
how
Like,
it makes it patriarchal. Like what specifically is causing that to be patriarchal? What
so
rulings
okay,
or laws are coming out of the Senate that are patriarchal?
here's what I think it rests on, and why you can still call it patriarchal is because patriarchy isn't just the rule of men, but it's implying, like Dolbesch said, like it's rule of fathers, right? The patriarchy, right? Matriarchy is implying motherhood. So when you look at men and women in leadership roles, they often sort of um, you know project their style of leadership in fatherly or motherly terms. If we look at the Code of Hammurabi, which
I
is
want to
written like
look at America right now today. You talked about the Senate, so don't
okay,
like it. The
America.
further we go back in history, I'm going to get lost.
Okay, America right now today has the Code of Hammurabi etched into the walls of the Capitol building. So
Okay,
it's
how does
important
that?
to
What's the
America.
practical effect of that? Is it affecting
Okay,
the way the Senate's making laws somehow?
so I'll point this out. because it shows something about humanity that was true of Babylonians in antiquity and Americans today.
A generalization, but not any
Yeah,
kind of specific truth.
well, it's human nature, right?
Because
And
even not even
human,
all fathers are going to rule the same way. So
yeah,
I
no,
like
exactly. You had Roman factions, right? Different men's on different sides. You had the populares against the optimates, but um, in the Code of Hammurabi wrote, Hammurabi loves his subjects like a father loves his children. It specifically says that. And that has been the approach male leadership throughout much of history has taken. It's like, I
all
have a
males
fatherly role.
are leading the same way.
No,
So
not all
everyone in
males.
the Senate is making law in this one specific
No,
way because they're
no, no, no,
male,
no.
and
This
it's a
isn't an all.
fatherly way.
None of this is an all male thing. But this is the primary reason for it. This is what men appeal to their fatherly sensibilities when going for leadership. Like,
Some
I'm going to
men,
be.
maybe, like you think all men appeal to this
No,
one single. Again, I can't get around the gender essentialism.
no. So
Because the majority is men, they're all going to do things in this one
I'm
particular
not
way
saying
because
they're
they're
all.
male.
I'm not saying they're all. I'm saying that this is how it tends to work out, right? Like when you shake the dirt and you see how the dust and the stones, sort by, their properties or whatever. This is how it tends to work. Now, if a gay guy runs for the Senate, and I think we've had a couple gay senators,
I'd
he's
say
going to
the
be
same
coming at
thing.
it
What is it about
from a
gay
different
people
angle,
that would be different? Like,
right? But usually what motivates um, men to like pursue power and then to like win support of people in their bid for power is their sense of like, I'm going to have a fatherly role related to my society, right? It's like George Washington was called the father of our nation, right? Was he literally the
yeah, we
father?
had the founding fathers. Again,
Exactly, right?
that's figurative language.
Yeah, but like that's sort of what's implied there. So the patriarchy is like, do you embody fatherly traits that that informs how
What's
you
a
govern?
fatherly trait? Give me an example of a fatherly
So
trait.
I gave an example. And you see it among conservatives, right? It's the way the immigration issue is presented. There's often emphasis on American citizen women, or in Europe, European women, being sexually assaulted or raped by the immigrants. They zero in on that a lot, and it's become a big part of why they think how they make people feel the issue is important. There are other things you could
What's
focus
the
on.
trait? What's the specific trait?
Well, I mean, it's men feel like they have to protect women, right? Fathers feel like they have to protect their wives and their daughters, and they are,
But do
viscerally
you
motivated in this way.
do women don't feel like they need to protect their daughters and other women, or like I agree that protect is it's seen a lot in male roles, but I don't think it's exclusively a male trait. Like I know plenty of women that would protect
I
children,
do know
would
that, but
protect their female
men
friends.
men tend to have a much more forceful reaction to that kind of thing, a more proactive thing like that.
Okay, and even if all that's true, how does that translate into something about the way the laws are made here in the U.S. or something concrete about our political system?
Because I think when voters see that in a man, they like it and they vote for it. They
But
vote for
that's
leaders.
not concrete. That's subjective. That's like how
It is
voters see things.
subjective, but then like every time
But
somebody
how
gets
does it translate into the way our country's governed? Like, is there a specific law that's being made because men tend to have this urge to protect women specifically? Specifically,
yeah,
men having an urge to specifically protect women instead of this general human trait to protect things that we care about.
I think men are much more likely to feel like they have to be protectors, and women do that on a more secondary basis. I think they
On
look
a
to the
more
men
what
for
basis?
secondary. I think women are more likely to look to the men to step up first, um, and then, um,
I I
and
I,
then
I would need I would need to see more on that. Like
yeah, and then
it's an assertion, but I'm not sure I completely buy it that
yeah.
men would tend to be more protect because I think that's a human quality that many people would feel male or female. So to
So
ascribe it
I,
specifically to men,
I did
I'm a
talk
little
about this.
skeptical toward.
I think in your server before about Margaret Thatcher, right? How she was the first female prime minister of Britain. But her rise to power and popularity was not based on her acting like this sort of cozy motherly figure, but she was very strong and forceful. You know, she was the prime minister during the Falklands War, and a lot of people were hesitant if they should even bother with asserting their sovereignty over the Falklands after the Argentine army went in and overran it. But Margaret was like, "No, we will protect our land," and she had
Right,
a
so
very
that's a
firm
female protect with the
right.
instinct to protect. Clever. I would agree that men and women are different. I just not sure that this protect instinct is one of the major differences.
But I think it's interesting that you look at their first female prime minister, and how did she break that glass ceiling? She did it in large part by emulating the behavioral and temperamental traits.
You think she was emulating, or did she herself have that instinct to protect, or was she faking? Like, oh, I don't
So
really feel like protecting, but men do it, so I'm gonna
so when I
model a
say
man. You
when
don't
I
think that she authentically had a desire to protect?
when I say emulate, I just mean that it could have been incidental, and then she doesn't necessarily mean she thought I will emulate a man to be successful. I don't think that we have to mind read that. I think she was probably actually like that, and so since she was capable of acting like one of the boys, she got the approval of the boys, and labor
But
today doesn't
that's what I'm
really.
quite is to call it acting like one of the boys. I think is the distortion because I think like the mama bear thing. I've had so many mama bear instincts turned against me by women. It is not an exclusively male trait. So whatever the
I'm
differences
not saying
between
it's
men and women
exclusively.
are, I don't think this instinct to protect is one of them. And
I
so
don't.
to frame it as a male trait, and when women do it, they're being more male, I think is wrong. It doesn't track with
I don't
my
think these things
take
are
on reality,
exclusive.
what
I
I've
don't think
observed
these
about
things are
reality.
exclusive. Nothing I have said is dependent on exclusive behavior between the sexes, but
Then
rather
why call one arbitrary trait male if both genders do it? Like, why
because
single that out as a male trait if it's done by both
the,
genders? That's what's
the,
confusing me.
the point is that it is more common in one than
Well,
the other.
I would need data to show that it's more common because I'm questioning that it's more. I think it appears to be more common, but I would need some concrete data that definitively proves that it's more common because I question that it's more common in men. I think it's a universal trait. And it maybe even be a cultural trait. You could probably find some cultures that have it less, or some genders do it more or less, like specific cultures. But to say that it's universally just more common that males will protect over females, I question. I would need to see more to convince me.
No, and I feel like that's just self-evident from history. Men feel like they're the ones who have to compose the army, take
Well,
up
it's
arms.
self-evident depending on what data points you're looking at. So if you're pulling specific historical examples and saying, "Look at these particular examples I've pulled out, they support the impression that it's true," that is not enough for me. I would want to go a layer deeper than that and get some actual hard data, and that's impossible to do historically. So we're confined to the present. But
Well,
I think it's an impression, but I don't know if it's a reality. It's an appearance, and I like to go beyond appearances here to the reality behind them.
okay. Well, so I mean, something I think is still in the present day is if there's some sort of dangerous scenario and a woman intervenes, but none of um, the men are going to face a lot of public shame for their failure to intervene. Whereas if only men intervene, but none of the women do, not a lot of the women are going to. So there's a lot of social expectation that men, being the bigger, stronger sex, are supposed to intervene for protection, and a lot of men know that. And this is what part of what excites them and encourages them to motivate is like their name is mud if they are too passive. Whereas if a woman doesn't put herself in harm's way to protect somebody, not very many not as many people are going to blame the woman for that unless she specifically put herself in a role where that's expected, like she becomes a police officer or something.
Is it risk taking more than actual protecting? Like men are just
Yes. So, but
expected to take more risk or have a tendency to take more risk. And
yes, because testosterone is associated with risk-taking behavior. But in order to protect people, rather often you have to be willing to take a
so
lot
maybe
of
it's the
personal
risk
risk.
taking and not necessarily the protection.
I mean, maybe, but if you're not willing to take risks, then you're not willing. to protect. And I think the protection is a certain type of risk taking that is highly valued. So not all risk taking in and of itself is necessarily valuable, but when the risk taking is in the form of protection, that's where men win. That's where men get social status, and that's why I think it's what's emphasized a lot.
Okay, that might make a little more sense to me if I see it as
Yeah.
risk taking more than protection.
Right. And I'll just say, like, this is, we've had
Yeah, see, Dobet, this makes more sense. I think the framing it as protection was the thing that was throwing me off because I think it's separate from the protection itself. It's this assertiveness versus passivity.
Yeah, and there's also, I think, we could also add the aspect that men are usually seen as more disposable by a population, and so that you can lose some men, and it's not as hard to rebuild your population as if you lose women, right? And so you could say there's an implicit social contract where if men are being more willing to put themselves in harm's way, they get to make more decisions. And so I think historically it's probably worked out a lot like that. It's different today for sure because not nearly as many men do that. Like at the founding of the country, the militia system we had was Jeff is finally straight. What? Okay, the militia system we had was interesting in that every able-bodied man, if the governor called the militia, had to grab his personally owned rifle and participate for. It was a certain number of months each year. So, like, if we still had that system, you and I, Jeff, because like it was basically every man from like 18 to 65. I think if our governors called the militia, you and I would have to grab our guns and go and just be in the woods on campaign for a while under the command of our governor. That's not the system we have today. So, the role of men has changed somewhat, and so some of those implicit social contracts have disappeared as well. But
That was explicit.
That one was an explicit one, right? Yeah, but the explicit one is you have to serve. The implicit one is therefore we're going to defer to men and let them make decisions because they're the ones who will be murdered, when the decisions are made and if they don't go well. And so that's the idea there. And so a lot of that has changed, and when less men are at risk, right, that does sort of open the door for feminism. Was like, well, if you're not putting yourself on the line, why do you get to have as much authority over women, right? So these things have evolved over time. But I think there are vestiges of these older systems that, slowly, that, change more slowly than an instantaneous shift. And I think when people notice that and they see that, like the people that are in power are still primarily men acting in a fatherly way, that's why they call it patriarchy. And it's not really incorrect.
I lost the last part of your sentence.
I was saying that when people notice that, what is this? Women get murdered all the time. So do I have to qualify that I'm not speaking in 100% or 0% terms here every time
You
I say
might. But I still didn't get the last part of your sentence. Your mic had cut out.
But anyway, what was I saying?
I don't remember.
Okay, Helena, I don't know how it's said. I don't understand the value of pointing out women get murdered all the time. You think I don't know that? You think this is the first day of my life I learned that women get murdered? Do you think I thought for the whole existence of humanity that there were 0 female murder victims until you just told me? Get real.
I'm sure she has a point for why she's saying that.
Then she should say the point instead of just.
Well, she can say what she wants, and y'all can adjust from there.
If she has a point.
Ideally, everybody would speak perfectly, exactly how you expect them to match your expectations of what they're trying to say. But we know in reality that's not how people work.
I
so
get
that's
that,
part of conversation and chat and being on a stream and interacting with chat.
But women get murdered all the time. That's like telling me the sky is blue. If there's a point behind it, just skip telling me the part I already know and just tell me what you want to tell me. Okay. have I said that women's lives don't matter, right? Like, let's just.
Well, I got to wrap up anyway
Oh, that
because I
was
got my
Sean.
thing in
Okay,
15
never mind.
minutes.
But yeah, so my whole point being is that patriarchy. I think when people notice that, you know, the trend is not immediate, and you still have something where it's primarily men in positions of actual power, well beyond what their proportion of the population is, and that they tend to do so by, leveraging a fatherly image and that
I don't
role.
know that. I don't know that that's how they end up in power.
I think that's
That
what they
that's
do.
that's quite a claim.
I think that is what they do.
Men end up in power because they leverage a fatherly image. They probably end up in power for many, many different reasons
I
because we
I
don't
think
know why each individual voter votes the
so.
way they do.
I think women can do both, but I think women who are like in the central like head of state role, like if you talk about who became the first female prime minister, they tend to be more successful if they can mimic a fatherly role. Whereas if you're going to be a member of a legislature, you can kind of run on being a
There's no
sweet
way to
mother
really test that.
easily,
So I
and
guess it's
that's going to
just
depend on your constituency and what resonates with them. There are some constituencies where they want a nice motherly figure, you know, voting on bills. Um, and But I mean, it's just interesting to me that all of Britain's female prime ministers have been from the Conservative Party, and Labour has not had one. So it's like I think we think back to like old societies, where you had just petty kingdoms and there weren't like, a lot of them didn't even have written language, so we could wonder how formal any of the structures were. Not very many of them were matriarchal, um, and there were just a handful of them, and I think long-term matriarchal societies have a difficult time surviving because when they are put to a test, they have to have leaders who are willing to take risks, and you're much more likely to get that with the male leader. Now, some male leaders can stupidly risk something and endanger the whole nation. The Shah of the Khwarezmian Empire, which was basically the Persian Empire during the time of the Mongols, decided to insult Genghis Khan, and Genghis Khan responded to that by invading Khwarezmia and conquering all of it and massacring millions of people. So the male leadership doesn't always necessarily lead to more protection, and risk taking can cause risk to materialize. But when faced with actual dangers, if we go back to like what Howard Marks said in that video, he talked about the risk of not taking enough risk. I think a lot of male leaders tend to have that more, and that's sort of like what they bring to a fatherly approach to things. Like they are afraid of the risk of not taking enough risk, and they tend to make decisions more from that mindset, even if they could not articulate it in that way for you.
okay. Well, we can leave it there for now.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming up, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow for our Nexus thing. No, wait, is that
That's
no?
Saturday. Yeah,
Today's Thursday. All right, I'm a
that's
day
right.
ahead.
Yep. All right. Well, good talk.
Okay, take care. I'm off to my next job class.
Night.
All right, everyone. That's it for me today. I may be out tonight. I'll play it by ear. If I do, it'll be a vertical fireside chat. Otherwise, tomorrow I have a lots to do, including an appointment outside. I'll be leaving the house, so I have a full day tomorrow. I may not even be able to stream it all. If I do, it's going to be way later in the day. We're talking 6 or 7 Eastern, 3 or 4 Pacific. So have a good rest of your day, and I guess I'll see you when I see you. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.